it seems that there's the increase in fires is kind of like a little bit scary. Like I know that fires have been happening in California for a long time, but it's in the last 10 years it really seems to be getting out of control. And I'm wondering if you guys feel like the people in charge could have done a little bit more in preparation of what we're dealing with right now.
So I think it's very fair to say that things maybe could have been done a little bit differently to help prevent something like this from happening. I don't think that is an unfair statement to make, but I think it is a stretch to say that this is all on Gavin Newsome. It's DEI hires, it's Democrat policies, right? We've had catastrophes and horrible things that have happened, disasters all over the country. And in my personal opinion, look after 9/11. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, David, right? So right after 9/11, everybody wasn't criticizing George W. Bush and Condoleezza Rice for at least a week anyway. The country came together.
Yes.
And I'm not a George W. Bush fan, but when he took that...
But ultimately, we did realize Dick Cheney made some really bad decisions after 9/11. And that,
And that's,
and I guess
okay.
what I'm wondering is...
So here, hold on. But David, let me just finish my point, and then you can take the floor here. The point I'm trying to make is this. In the days and weeks after an event that is still going on, there are people, their homes are burning right now as we speak. And Donald Trump is making it all about politics. He's saying he's not even going to help and send aid unless they pass a voter ID law. I'm not saying what you're saying is unreasonable. I think it's fair to have some criticism. It's also fair to say that 100-mile-per-hour winds and the big drought that they've experienced, I think in the last 60 years, might have also played a role. I'm not saying it's not fair to point fingers. What I am saying is it's not fair to withhold aid and play politics when people are dying and losing their homes, David. Surely you would agree with me on that.
Do you have to wonder whether or not the people that were in charge before this happened are the right people to lead us now that it has happened? And I guess my question for you is, do you think Mayor Bass and Governor Newsome survived this?
You're talking about politically, I would assume.
Well, I mean, the fire came through and there was no water in the Pacific Palisades Reservoir. I mean,
So if you speak to people, and by the way, the investigation is still ongoing, so there's no thorough answers as to why this could have happened. So I think it's very important to wait until that is finished. But if you talk to many of the people that are on the ground that are actually experts, they would say that one reservoir would not have stopped these fires. So again, I go back to saying what I said earlier. Now is not the time to talk about the political future, in my opinion, of Gavin Newsom or the mayor of LA. Now is the time to help the victims, help their families, and help them rebuild. There should be a thorough investigation, which there will be. Do you not agree with me on that?
I kind of feel like it's not just the reservoir. I kind of feel like the whole policy around water in California is archaic. It's like, this isn't 1974. Like, amazing advances have been made in water technology.
David, I don't live in California. Courtney, why don't you respond to what he's saying?
I don't actually know what part he's talking about. What I wanted to talk about, though, was the original question, which was climate change is a huge. So you're seeing in 10 years, yes, we've always had fires, but you're seeing a huge climate change. These winds that we're getting, these Santa Ana winds, 100 miles an hour, that's a level 2 hurricane level winds in California. But it's not, yes, California is greatly impacted, but we're seeing this across the globe. We're seeing these impacts of huge natural disasters that are happening because of this climate change that we are now going to remove ourselves from making any change in this.
Courtney, I agree with that.
I just watched an old video from John Coleman, who was the founder of the Weather Channel, and the climate change, the global warming, it's a whole nother conversation, and I just feel like.
What do you mean it's a whole nother conversation? We're talking about the fire and cause and effect. Let me ask you a question, David.
Because fires have been happening in California for 100 years, and you can look at a map that the LA Times did in 2018.
Yes,
and it shows you.
I saw that.
Every fire for the past 100 years. I mean, this is not anything new. Okay. And however, the government doesn't seem to be caught up with the reality of what's going on.
Okay. I think you bring up some fair points, David, but I want to ask you what I think is an important question. And it's not about whataboutism. It is about, are we going to treat both sides the same? I don't know who you voted for. I don't know what political party you're in. Don't care. I'm going to ask you this question. We are one of the richest countries in the world. And per capita, we lost more people from COVID than almost any other country in the world. Donald Trump said 10 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. Would you have any of the same criticism you appear to have for Gavin Newsom and the mayor of LA as to Donald Trump when he was in office during COVID?
I think the whole COVID situation, I'd really love to get to the bottom of how that started.
Okay, but
before I pass judgment on.
Hold on. So 5 years later, you're not willing to give, actually more than that, you're not willing to put much of any criticism on Donald Trump, and you say, boy, I'd like to get to the bottom of it. I wish they would continue to investigate. It sounds like that's what you're saying. But yet we're still in the middle of these fires in California, and you're criticizing Gavin Newsome and the mayor of LA. Do you see the double standard?
Are these the people that we need to lead us?
Let's ask that about, did you think Donald Trump is the leader that we need, sir, when per capita we were losing 3,000 to 5,000 people a day from COVID when Donald Trump left office? He said 10 cases down to zero. Hold on a second. No, it does matter because it's a double standard with people like you, and it frustrates me. So I'm going to ask you
this. Wait a second, 77 million people? There's something else deeper going on here.
What do you mean 77 million people? We lost a couple million people to COVID. Why is it that people like you make it a double standard? When it comes to the fires that are still going on in California, you want accountability now. But 5 years after COVID, 5 years after Donald Trump took office, well, we need to look into more things. Why won't you admit that Donald Trump did a terrible job? Hold on a second. Donald Trump did a terrible job with COVID. He turned COVID press conferences into campaign rallies. He talked about injecting yourself with disinfectant. And then he takes his little orange fingers and he walks with his orange feet and gets a COVID vaccine privately with Melania Trump. Why won't you give any criticism to millions of people that died of COVID and the handling of COVID under Donald Trump? But then in the middle of this whole thing, why won't you do that?
It's simple. The reason is because I just told you about how the LA Times put out this.
I'm not asking you about that. I'm not asking you.
Let me finish.
No, but you're not. No.
COVID-19 was not predictable. COVID-19 came out of nowhere.
Okay, so let's just say you're right. COVID was not, it came out of nowhere. Okay, I'm not asking you about that. And by the way, your excuse is pathetic. Here's why. Barack Obama left Donald Trump a pandemic, how to deal with a pandemic. He left him a playbook. So don't you give me the excuse that, well, it came out of nowhere. Donald Trump has admitted that Barack Obama and his administration left him a playbook on how to deal with a pandemic. So your excuses are false. The reason why I'm getting frustrated with you, sir, and you can tell by my voice, is because it's always a double standard with you people. The fires are still going on. They haven't even really started the investigation yet, let alone finished it. Yet 5 or 6 years, 5 years after Donald Trump left office and we were losing 3,000 to 5,000 people a day from COVID, all you people do is make excuses for him. Why can't you just say his handling of COVID was terrible? Why can't you just say that, sir, as we pod you back up? Can you please?
The right leaders to move it. Are you asking yourself that question?
I just asked you a question. Why don't you answer it for the first time?
I just told you. I feel like it's a very different. It's apples to oranges. You're talking about fires that are happening in California for 100 years. We know of, at the very least.
We've had pandemics before.
Spanish flu was 1917.
Do you think Donald Trump did a good job in handling COVID? Yes or no?
I think it's a different situation.
Do you think Donald Trump? Do you think? I'm going to make you answer the question. I
don't know if he did a bad job.
You don't know. You don't know if he did a bad job. We're one of the richest countries in the world. Per capita, we had more deaths than almost any other country in the world. And you can't answer whether Donald Trump did a good job in handling with COVID. This is a double standard, sir, and you're playing politics. It's a double standard. Admit it.
The 2020 election was the most impaired election.
Who won the 2020 election?
It's a great question.
No, it's not a great question. Who won the 2020 election? Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Impaired election of my life.
Who won the
1960 was also impaired.
You don't know.
The 1960 election.
The question wasn't about who won the 1960 election or whatever that stupid question you're asking. The question was who won the 2000. Do you see what I have to deal with every day with these people?
No, because they can't answer a damn question.
No,
it's always. That's the thing, though. They always defend. The goalpost moves and moves and moves and moves and moves, and we defend and we defend and we defend.
My question is.
You won't answer.
No. What do they think about Elon's behavior?
You don't ask another question. You've lost that privilege because you haven't answered one of mine. I'm going to ask it again. Who won the 2020 election? Answer the question. And don't give me a stupid answer like I don't know. You know who won. Who won the 2020 election? Don't answer a question by asking it. Answer the damn question.
Is there allowed to be any context to the answer?
No.
Yes or no question.
No.
Right.
Is the Earth
right. And that's
okay?
Why you guys
Ready? Here we go. Is the Earth round or flat?
This is not a debate.
Is the Earth round or flat, sir? Answer the question.
I believe it. I believe it's round.
You believe it's
believe
round.
it.
Yeah, he believes it's round. Oh my God. No, sir, it's not what you believe. The Earth is round, and Joe Biden won a free and fair election. How do we know that, sir? Because there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. Nothing was proven in court. That's how we know that. You're going to defend Donald Trump and wear the Donald Trump knee pads in every single situation, okay? You're obviously very political. You care more about outing Gavin Newsome, then clearly you care about the people that have lost their homes. You're not willing to put any accountability with anything Donald Trump does. Let me guess, you're also okay with Donald Trump pardoning January 6th insurrectionists that beat police officers. Are you okay with those pardons as well, sir?
It's funny because I look at what Biden did with the crime.
Didn't ask, hey, Mr. Whataboutism.
Come on.
Mr. Whataboutism. I didn't ask you about Joe Biden. I'm going to try to ask him another question, which he won't answer. He won't answer any of my questions.
Answer anything.
Are you okay with Donald Trump pardoning the leader of the Oath Keepers, the leader of the Proud Boys, those who were convicted of seditious conspiracy, and those who beat police officers? The question has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Are you okay with Donald Trump's pardons of these people? Yes or no?
I'm okay with everybody that's been pardoned in the last 3 months being put in the cage and having a Royal Rumble.
All right. Well, guess what? I think you should be put in a cage and somebody should have a Royal Rumble with you because you are embarrassing, David. You are embarrassing. You won't answer any direct questions. You won't say who won the 2020 election. When asked about how Donald Trump handled COVID, you don't want to put any responsibility on him, but you want to put all the responsibility on Gavin Newsome. I want Courtney to give the last word on your statements, David. Go ahead.
Man, I don't even know what to say. It's like they can't. That's the thing. I have so many things to say and nothing to say all at the same time. They always move the goalposts, right? Like it's always a defend. And the thing that I think is so interesting is why defend somebody who doesn't want anything that's best for you? Doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your well-being, doesn't care about anything. Something I found interesting with the fires and the way that people voted is that the people who have voted for Trump were nowhere to be found with helping people and victims and supporting. They were at home. They were making a political statement, and it goes along with what they're saying.
It's incredible, isn't it, Courtney, that
Yeah.
I try to be reasonable with these people. And I say, okay, if you want to point fingers, let the investigation happen. But when it comes to COVID, 5 years later, after Trump left office, doesn't want to put any responsibility on Donald Trump and wants, we need to learn some more things. But while these fires are happening, he wants to put all of it on Gavin Newsom. These people have a double standard that was proven.
Yes. And pandemics are predictable. We've known about them. We have playbooks and we
Obama
saw it
gave
happening.
him a playbook.
Yes, we saw it happening in China. We had time to be like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put things in place. We could have started that playbook before it would have hit the U.S. in the way that it did.
I think I'm going to label that call because the calls are pretty popular when I put them on social media. You can think of another one, Courtney, let me know. MAGA double standard proven in real time.